Okay, here we go. Nikki, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Joff. Pleasure to be here.
Nikki, I wanted to do like I mentioned to you a couple of days ago, I wanted to do a podcast on starting your career in the fitness industry because I had a couple of people reach out to me recently, just start asking some questions, maybe given the circumstances over the last few months. And I thought there would be no better person to get on the show than you to kind of direct those questions towards. So before we get into that, do you want to just give yourself a little bit of an introduction?
Yeah, so my name is Nicky, also known as Nicky Fitness. Worked in the fitness industry for over 12 years and worked my way up from a fitness instructor, personal trainer, fitness team leader, fitness manager, leisure club manager. Then I moved over to Dubai about 5 years ago with Fitness First, worked there as a fitness manager for 2 years. And then I set up my own business, Nicky Fitness, which is delivering personal training, one-on-one group sessions, but also I teach for a company called Empiric, which is a training provider that delivers level 2 and level 3 fitness courses. So over the past few years, I've really enjoyed teaching and educating aspiring personal trainers to come into the fitness industry. And I've obviously enjoyed then being my own boss and having my own flexibility with my own personal training and my own business. So yeah, I really enjoy what I'm currently doing, and hopefully the listeners can get some valued information from me today.
Yeah, I think that's great. And obviously, like yourself with so much experience and still doing it as well, like it's not as if you've just stepped onto the other side, like you're still actively doing a lot of personal training yourself, a lot of training, but then you also have the route through for people, and you know the ins and outs of where someone might be able to start if they do get like a little bit of motivation to say, hey, I want to ask some questions. Where can I go to? You're the perfect person for that. So we'll share your details and stuff at the end as well, because I'm sure there'll be questions from there. Okay, but so obviously 12 years you've stepped into kind of like the almost like the coaches side of it as well. I want to go back to you as a personal trainer, or you in the fitness industry as a whole, because I've had a very similar background to you, to be honest, in terms of, in the UK, studied, came out here. I worked with Fitness First for a year as well, come and set up my own business. What is it that you really love or really enjoy about the fitness industry and being part of that?
I think in Dubai, there's more demand for it. Obviously, people have that disposable income. Personal training is very popular, particularly in the Middle East. So what I've noticed in Dubai, there is opportunity for growth within personal trainers and within the fitness industry. There's boutique studios opening up. There's different style of classes, little niches. Then you've got some fantastic gyms with amazing facilities and equipment, which, if you're into CrossFit, you've got something for that. If you're into triathlons, you've got something for that. If you're into bodybuilding. So it ticks a lot of boxes. And I think for me, it's having that variety where, you're not just training somebody who wants to lose weight. You might have those clients, of course, but then you might have someone who has got the Spinneys 92 cycle challenge coming up in November, or they've got the Ironman coming up in January. So you're training people that are, potentially sports athletes that are training towards a more specific goal. And it's quite diverse, I think, particularly in this part of the world.
It's almost more exciting having clients with those types of goals, right? Yeah, like we know that people want to lose weight and look good, but when you can actually direct someone's training, it makes it a little bit more exciting from our side as well.
Yeah, definitely. And for me, I'm a type of person that I like to practice what I preach. So I set myself like little goals. Since I've been in Dubai, I've done a bodybuilding physique show because I wanted to prove to my clients you could get in shape naturally. And I've done, Spartan races, Tough Mudders, and I just did the Dubai Marathon in January. So kind of my training has been a bit diverse as well, but it's been able to give me more education and more understanding of what my clients are going through when they're training for a specific goal.
Yeah, I think that's perfect, and fair play for doing all of that as well, like especially the physique stuff as well, the dieting and all of that. Let's get into this then. Let's just take someone, for example, they've been through this lockdown period. Maybe it's something they've thought about before, maybe a change in career, or to step into the fitness industry. Maybe they enjoy the idea of coaching someone, personal training, maybe even branching out into like the nutrition side of it as well, although we'll stay more kind of personal training based. Where do they start? How does someone get into that?
So we offer personal training courses. We do a level 2 and a level 3 diploma. And basically a level 2 is a fitness instructor's qualification. So somebody that has no previous qualifications or knowledge, maybe they're working in an office and they want to change to become somebody in the fitness industry, then they would start off with a level 2. And with that qualification, what we teach them is the basics of anatomy. We teach them, the muscles, the bones, basic movement patterns, how to use cardiovascular machines, how to use resistance machines, different types of flexibility, posture tests. We basically go from scratch, and it's very similar, the level 2, to what you might study in the UK as a GCSE PE qualification or an A-level PE, just in maybe a little bit more detail and a little bit more gym and fitness specific. But if somebody obviously wanted to start with that, what they'd have to do is then they'd look to do the level 2 course. There are 2 exams, practicals, and 2 exams theory that they would need to study. And then after that, if they do everything safely and effectively, because that's the main thing as a level 2, is that you're able then to work in a gym, to offer guidance, offer advice. If they do things safely and correctly and they understand the techniques and how to use the machines and what to do and what not to do, then they get that qualification, and that then opens up the opportunity for them to go into the fitness industry as a gym instructor, and then further their career going on to the level 3 personal trainer qualification.
Yeah, so that's good to know, and like the way that you laid it out there. So like potentially you might not have had any gym experience as a coach or anything like that. Like that's your first stepping stone into the industry. And I guess that level 2, I know you said before that you tend to tie them up in terms of like a model for people trying to progress through. But I guess that's almost like a stepping stone that someone can make a decision then, can't they? If they qualify through that level 2 and they go, yeah, do you know what? I am really enjoying this. This is what I want to do. Then perhaps they can move on to the level 3.
Yeah, and it's completely down to that individual. If they wanted to become a PT within 6 months, they have that option. If they wanted to become a gym instructor and thought, right, I'm going to get my head around all this work, because it does involve a lot of reading and putting into practice in the gym yourself. You might want to get your head around that and then be like, right, well, I'll book it maybe in a year's time to do my level 3, because I want to make sure I thoroughly understand the whole content of level 2 before I progress. And we do get a lot of people that come on our courses that don't have that fitness knowledge and don't necessarily exercise themselves, which is difficult. And as you can imagine, you're trying to literally teach somebody from a clean slate, and that's where it gets a little bit more challenging from the tutor perspective and from the learner. But they do learn a lot, and people do kind of pick it up. The more that they get to the gym and the more they practice themselves, they get to know the techniques and the methods, and it's quite inspiring to see someone that comes on who has no knowledge, and then kind of after level 2 they know a lot and they've progressed, and that's quite rewarding as well as a tutor to see that.
Yeah, and I think we'll get into this a little bit deeper, but there's obviously doing the qualifications, and there's things like the extra reading, the listening to podcasts and books, and that extra research and education that you go and do yourself that really kind of cements you in terms of what you can offer as a trainer. But what's the so if we were just going to look at it from a bird's eye view, level 2, you can work in a gym as a gym instructor, assisting on the floor, offering maybe some technique and advice and things like that. But then the level 3 is when you really have, you're able to go and offer advice, you're able to get into personal training, that type of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And level 3, gives you that opportunity to take gym floor classes, to take one-to-one personal training, and to have that extra level of knowledge. The level 3 qualification is quite difficult. There's a lot of work that as a learner you have to do it at your own pace at home, and it can get quite overwhelming, particularly if you can imagine if you study your course now and then work gets really busy and then you forget about it for 2 months and then you're trying to look back at it, it can get quite overwhelming. So the level 3 is the main qualification, because that allows you then to be a personal trainer. And even, when I worked at Fitness First as a fitness manager, we would recruit personal trainers for our clubs, and we would more than likely go for the level 3 because they have that extra level of knowledge and understanding, which, is better for the customer.
Yeah, and I guess because I remember doing the level 3 back, must have been like 12 years ago now, but I'd already studied obviously at university the degree in sports performance and coaching, and I went and did that level 3, and I did quite an intensive one. It was over 2 weeks, and then you went back, and then you did another couple of weeks as well.
Yeah,
And I remember it was the first time that they'd done it in that style, and I think there was 11 people on the course, and I think I was the only one that passed because I had all the knowledge from obviously doing the degree, and it was just a case of going and ticking some boxes and learning more of the, I guess, more the practical and gym specific things that I needed to. But like you
yeah.
said, it's a lot of work to get in.
It is, and some people do find it difficult, particularly if they're not exercising and they're not physically putting into practice what they learn and going to the gym themselves. You know, it's like you can imagine somebody training to be a doctor but never been in a hospital before. You
Yeah.
know, you might have the passion for it, but you have to have like a basic understanding of the machines or the exercises or, you know, the muscles or the movement of the body. The mechanics is very important.
I think what fascinates me in this conversation around helping people from the beginning of their fitness journey to potentially, doing it as a career is like fair play to anybody who has a specific idea of who they want to work with. I want to work with mums pre and postnatal. I want to work with athletes. I want to work weight loss. I want to work more focused on nutrition. What you've explained already in terms of like the level 2 progression onto the level 3 is almost like your prerequisite to go into something more specific, which is the level 4, I guess.
Yeah, so that allows then, once you've got your level 2, you've got your level 3, that then opens up a path for you to do a level 4, which might be strength and conditioning, it might be lower back pain, might be obesity, or then you can upskill with a CPD, a continued professional development course, which then might teach you how to use kettlebells or Olympic lifting or strength and conditioning. So you can learn more about, or pre and postnatal, you've got other options then, whereas I'm level 3, I want to go into that, or I want to learn more about that. And Reps UAE are doing a great job in offering courses and trying to, standardize the fitness industry here in the Middle East. And they've got a tough job because there are a lot of trainers, as you know, in Dubai that are not necessarily certified, which is frustrating. But I think when it comes to qualifications, you've got a lot of options where you can upskill. And if you did fancy doing something about, suspension training, or you wanted to become a Les Mills class instructor, you can go down that route. So there are a lot of opportunities open to people that are level 2 or level 3 qualified.
Yeah, we'll get a little bit more controversial now, but we'll keep it within. We won't get too controversial, I guess. But you've brought it up already in terms of Reps, registered exercise professional. Obviously, from the UK is where I first knew about it. I don't know whether it's anywhere else in the world, but that is essentially like the hub of controlling people who are registered, people who are legit. They have the qualifications to go and carry those things out. In the UK, it's pretty legit. Like you can't get far without it. Out here, because it's such a new model out here, what is it, like 4 or 5 years it's been around in the UAE?
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, the Dubai government would need to kind of fully put their back in and their power behind it, because it's a very good idea, and very similar to the UK, because I was I was on the Reps register in the UK, and for people listening, it's basically a register of exercise professionals is what it stands for, and it basically allows you as a trainer to submit your credentials and your qualification, and then you get a membership card. So then when you're working with clients, or if you're teaching in a gym, you can show the card to prove that your certifications are legit. And hopefully, in the next coming 6 months, 12 months in Dubai, that will become the norm for most gyms and places, because I think it needs to happen. As there are, unfortunately, a lot of people that do see personal training or becoming a fitness instructor or trainer kind of an easy option to make some money, because it does pay well if you're good at what you do, and they not necessarily have the credentials then behind them.
Yeah, we'll get into that in terms of like the importance of not cutting corners. And I guess as two people who have been in the industry for a long time, it might almost sound as if we're like a little bit bitter towards it, but I'm sure you're the same. It's not a bitterness towards it. It's more of a just giving the whole fitness industry that kind of more holistic approach and making sure that people are doing things properly. One of the things I really noticed, obviously I come from like a CrossFit background. I did my CrossFit certification 7 years ago, already had my PT, working as a PT, already had my degree. So for me to go and do that CrossFit certification, which was a weekend course, which is a multiple choice questionnaire, don't get me wrong, like I learned a ton doing it, and I probably learned just as much on that weekend as I did in some of my, some of my university days, which was great. But then officially in the CrossFit realm, and now I want to make this clear that this is potentially separate from, going and doing your level 2, level 3. This is almost like that CPD type of stuff. I potentially had the license to go and open up my own gym, to go and work in a gym. I'm not saying that everybody who does their level 1 will get a job in a CrossFit gym, because, things have kind of progressed from there. But I could go in there and I could be seen and be practicing fitness training, be seen as a role model in the industry from doing a weekend course.
Yeah. And there are a lot of weekend courses, particularly, during lockdown. I did a course myself during lockdown, because I had more free time and I wanted to upskill and learn something new. But yeah, there are weekend courses that can, certify people. But those people that do those courses, if they're good at what they do, they will, continue and sustain and make a good career out of it. And then if you're not so good, or if you don't put all your heart and soul into it, those people do kind of drop off, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think those types of courses are great. And again, like I mentioned at the start, and just giving people that kind of gateway into the fitness industry. They don't have to go and spend a load of money on, potentially going to do their level 2, level 3, that route. They can go in and just kind of dip their toes in to see if it's something they enjoy. Because I guess, if someone wanted a career change into being a personal trainer 6 or 7 years ago, before these kind of courses were more accessible, it was a big decision, right? It was, right, I need to leave my job. I need to study every evening after work. Family goes on hold, this goes on hold. It's a lot more of a big decision, where it just seems that the gateway is, because it's been lowered, we're just seeing people jumping into it a little bit more easily, which again, I'm not trying to slate and say that's the bad thing, as long as they're filling their potential with going and doing the relevant qualifications as well.
Yeah, I agree with what you said. It's a great opportunity. The fitness industry is very popular, probably now more than ever. I've seen so many live workouts on Instagram and YouTube that people have been doing over the past few months with lockdown. So yeah, it's a great industry to be a part of. But like you said, you do then have to follow it up. And this is why CPD courses are important, because, once you've got your level 2 and level 3, the journey and the learning doesn't stop there. You still have, other courses available to upskill, to learn. And as the industry is always changing, there's new ideas, new inventions, different methods that have been proven, or studies and literature that is being researched. As a PT, it's kind of your responsibility to stay on top of that, to offer the latest trends or the latest cutting edge methods to your clients, which is going to help them get results faster. I had a client before who I trained for 6 months. And within the first couple of weeks, they were like, so why are we not just on the treadmill, just doing half hour of continuous running? And, it's quite an old school approach, and that's what they had been told before to do. And obviously there's so many different methods now that is going to, get them results faster and burn more calories than just doing a 30-minute at steady pace on a particular treadmill. So it's keeping up to date with the methods and the new inventions and trends. And, CPD courses, when you are certified, you have that option to upskill and to grow as a person and as a trainer.
Yeah, I like that you brought up the piece about, obviously, because of the situation and all the live workouts and everything that's going on. Again, like, I'm all for promoting exercise. If there's someone that you've perhaps follow on social media and, they're motivating you to exercise, regardless of if they've got a qualification or not, like, fair play, as long as it's kind of in that safe environment. Yeah. But then obviously, I always like to just tell people, if someone approaches me and potentially wants to do some training sessions with me, there's so much choice out there now and because of things like social media and the internet, you could potentially be training with someone in Australia online if you wanted to, or the other side of the world. Like, you have a choice now to go and find someone that their message really resonates with you. Mm-hmm. And they might have a real kind of like specific niche that really like fits within what you're trying to achieve as well.
Yeah, and it's having that rapport with the client that you work with as well. It's having those common similarities, and as a trainer, you're not just somebody who kind of Mr. motivates them and tells them what to do and shouts to them like a sergeant in a boot camp. You're actually the person that's going to kind of guide them and educate them as well. And I think the education part is important, because as a PT, you have to share your knowledge, and you almost have to teach your client as to why they're doing this particular method, or why they're training like this, or why they need to eat these types of foods, and at certain times of day, because giving them that education, they're much more likely then to stick to it in the long run, and to follow it through, and it's more sustainable for them.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, and it's such a great point. Trying to, you're teaching them, you're educating them within those sessions, so they could go and potentially do it by themselves eventually. But obviously, a lot of people just like the idea of having that accountability of a trainer and having that extra motivation there as well.
Yeah, and there were clients that I train now. Obviously, I won't say their names, but they wouldn't train if I wasn't there, because if they work in business and they've got an appointment, they'll be there. Whereas if they haven't got an appointment and their schedule's free, would they train themselves? They might not. As much as they enjoy the training and they've achieved great results, they need that accountability, and they need somebody then to kind of commit to at 6 in the morning, or 7:30 at night after a long day of work. Because the easy option for most of us would be, right, I'm just going to go home and I'm going to have dinner and chill for the evening. So the accountability is a big thing, and as a trainer, that's another part of your job, I guess, as a role model, is to keep that client accountable and to keep them motivated and focused, and get them punctual at your sessions, so that they get a good workout.
Yeah. Mate, I want to bring it back to, I guess, more of like your own personal philosophies around your training and stuff. And this isn't necessarily to do with like qualifications or anything now. And I've just put in my notes here, knowledge versus adherence. And it's just going back to that whole thing that, like, as a trainer, like we've already kind of mentioned how important it is to do that, extra bit of research, your CPD. But if you're not able to kind of apply that to your training sessions, to your clients, and get that adherence, so basically they do what you tell them to do, you're not going to get very far as a trainer.
No, and you can kind of build that relationship with that client from the consultation. On the courses that I teach, the initial meet and greet with that client, it's a good opportunity face to face for you to get to know them as a person, and they get to know you. And obviously you can get a lot of information from that about their goals, their exercise history, their background, medical history, and also their motivation. So when it comes to actually training them, you have that common denominator. You have a connection, and what we call a hotspot. For example, if I was training you, I'd want to know why your goal is this, and what's the underlying motivation, something that's intrinsic, that's going to kind of get you to switch on, and a funny story, when I trained somebody before, they wanted to look good at the beach, because they enjoyed going to the beach on the weekend, and they wanted to look good, which fine, that's cool with that. So we trained, and then it was only until about 2 months into the training together, the guy was really down. I said, what's up? And then he said, well, the reason I wanted to look good at the beach is because I'd broken up with my girlfriend. So that was the trigger that was kind of motivating. So when you can establish that with your client, and you can get to, find out the underpinning reason as to why they're committing and training with you, then it's going to help you both pull in the same direction towards the overall goal.
So essentially pulling back the layers of the onion, right?
Yeah.
I think as a trainer, if you're doing a first session with someone or a potential new client, if you're not making that conversation just slightly awkward at some point, because you're digging away and asking questions, and I'm not saying about being rude or doing anything out of the ordinary, but just by probing them and asking those questions, you're going to get a far better adherence, rapport with them, like you mentioned, just from doing that.
And the more knowledge you get, the more information you have then to write a training program and to tailor it specifically to that client, to that individual. So it is about getting as much information about them as you can, obviously within reason, but things that are going to be relevant then, that you can basically put together a program and train them as best as you can.
I think that's one of the things you get from, I guess, just from experience through doing it as well. Like I remember working in fitness first, and that was the first time that I'd ever been like in a sales environment, you know, having targets of conductions of PT sales and things like that. And you're sitting down with someone and, you know, you've been and done the training and you feel a bit awkward and you don't want to ask these questions. Whereas now if I sit down with someone, I'm like, I'll let the room be silent for like 30 seconds. I'll be like, okay, why, and just let it keep going. And it's not for anything other than their benefit, because the more I know, like you said, the more I can help, you know, the more underlying factors that we can get, we can start building towards their plan.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so how is there anything that you found? Obviously you've mentioned one there, and I think it's very relevant about from the first situation, you know, setting out those guidelines in the beginning, find out a little bit more about them. Is there anything else that you think makes you successful as a PT, or that you found has worked with some of the people that you've trained?
I think having a structure, you know, having accountability and making sure that they're committed and they're going to show up on time, but having a structure where, you know, each week you know that what you're going to do when you train that person. I do it for myself and I do it for my clients. You know, on a particular day, I know what maybe muscle group I'm going to train, or whether I'm going to do cardio or resistance training, and that then gives a much clearer understanding for both parties on what they're going to train and how they're going to then, you know, get closer towards their goal. So it's having a structure, particularly in terms of what they want to achieve. You know, planning that program so that it is specific to them, and then obviously adding in progressions and overloads that are going to challenge them a little bit more, make them a little bit uncomfortable, and see how they react to that. And week on week, then you should start to see progress.
May, I'm going to put you on the spot now, and let's go the opposite of that then, because you obviously see trainers come through you under your guidance through the courses, the personal training qualifications, and then perhaps see them when they're, you know, a year down the line. Maybe you see them in, I know you're based in Warehouse Gym, training someone. What are the things that people should not be doing as trainers? So what I mean by this is, what are the things that you know, trainers can become lazy with, and won't necessarily get noticed by like a client, but other fitness professionals are going. I'll give you an example. Just things like simply measuring people's progress, right? In terms of weights, reps, sets, having that progressive overload, even just having a plan for a session rather than just rocking up and going, oh yeah, we'll do this.
Yeah. How long have you got?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think, well, there's quite a few things that you see, and I do see students that have been on course with me and that they're in the gym, and, you know, they give you a little wave and they've got their own clients, and that's great to see, because, you know, they came from not having any fitness knowledge to now kind of doing what I do, and they're in the gym with clients, which is fantastic. A lot of the kind of pet hates, I think, that trainers notice on other trainers, or if they see someone that's quite new, is that, you know, counting reps is one of my bugbears, where, you know, people just count to 10. You know, they're not really coaching, they're not educating on mind to muscle engagement. They're literally 1, 2, 3, next one, and, you know, that's kind of one of the things not to do. So I'd advise people to stay away from counting. And if you're going to count, don't count every rep and don't count it out loud.
Yes.
Yeah, and also then when it comes to, I think, spotting, I see a lot of people that maybe are not spotting their clients effectively. You know, like if someone's doing a bench press, you know, that trainer might be one arm pulling it up instead of, you know, balancing the power. Little things like that. But to be honest, there's not that many, particularly in this day-to-day, that you see as much as it used to be. You know, I think people have got better. People are, you know, a bit more aware of how they are. And it's important, because not only are you training that person, that client, but you've got other people in the gym, potential clients that might be looking at you, or other trainers that might be looking at you. So it can affect your reputation. It can affect you getting more clients then, if they see that you're not looking and giving 100% focus to the person that you are training.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's not the make or break of you know, you as a fitness trainer, but it's all those little things that could potentially add up and end up being you know, if you end up not getting as many clients, they might be the small things that are adding up, right?
Yeah, and, you know, when you're in the gym environment, you have to be a role model. You don't know who's watching you. You have to, treat that client and give them your undivided attention, because if they're, paying for a service, you have to make that service for that 1 hour as best as you can. Another thing not to do, which is just going back to that question you asked, is being on your phone, and whether you're looking at your WhatsApp for your next client appointment later on in the day, or whether you're on Instagram, or whether you're just using it as a timer, it kind of gives that bad vibe. It looks like people think that you're not interested if you're a PT and you're on your phone and your client's doing a plank and you're not really engaging with them. That's another thing that can give off a negative vibe, and that trainers shouldn't do if they want to be successful or if they want to pick up new clients.
But it comes back to what you said as well about that client is paying potentially a lot of money for a session with you. Like, your focus should be on them. And I don't know if you've ever heard of the book, The One Thing, and it just talks about you can't be doing two things at once. Like, you are focusing on one thing. So the fact that you are checking your phone means that you're taking attention of what that person is doing as well. So completely agree with that. Mate, we're going to wrap it up there. I think we've gone through a lot there. Like I said at the beginning, the main aim for that was, and I feel like we've accomplished it, that someone could listen to this and it will give them kind of like a route through of how to get into the industry. Obviously, this is what you do. So where can these guys find you, and maybe some of your links to your courses and things like that?
Yeah, so myself, I'm accessible on Instagram, which is at Nicky_fitness. My website, which is www.nicky-fitness.com. And then the courses I teach is with a company called Empiric, and their Instagram handle is at Empiric Middle East. And their website is www.empiricuae.com. If you reach out to me and you contact me about any fitness courses, then of course I can give you a full breakdown of what the courses entail and what's best to get you on board and start your fitness journey.
Yeah, and like I'm more than happy to give people advice, but for anything that's in terms of like progressing on and making a start, I'm going to be putting them in touch with you. So thanks for sharing that. I'll make sure I tag them in the show notes. But thanks for coming on today, mate.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, and been nice to talk about fitness from an education and teaching point of view.
Yeah, let's do that another time for sure.
Cool.
Cheers, mate.